Yes Scotland in the way that, for example, the Greens and the SSP have as well?
At the beginning, when I started the page, it was a bit of the first week after I set it up, I was being inundated with emails and messages from all around Scotland asking to go to meetings and things like that. Yes, Scotland got in touch straight away, and I was in their newsletter and things like that, offering any sort of support they could. I didn't really know at the time when I set up. I didn't really know what kind of direction I was going to take it in. Whether we would try and get people on board and try and set up some sort of network like Labour for Indy. We decided more from the few people that are sort of still within the party that sort of contribute to the page that it would be best not to do that. They would try and change the party from within rather than fight against it. And I say the forum is there for people to come and talk and just to try and point out things. I mean, I try and write articles from a Liberal Democrat point of view, talk about things in the Liberal Democrats and try and point out that, independence is actually, this would happen with independence. Occasionally, I might go on an odd rant about the BBC or something like that, but it's usually I try and keep it very much Lib Dem orientated and talk about the Liberal Democrats. And on the site, we talked a lot about Michael Moore, and I'm a big fan of Michael Moore, and I thought he conducted himself very, very well when he was involved in debates and putting the unionist side point of view. I mean, it's a correct way, in my opinion, and a wrong way to argue against things. And Michael Moore always came across with dignity. He didn't always agree with what he was saying, but he certainly, at the end of it, you can imagine going for a drink with him and getting along with him.
Not quite like Anna Sarwar.
I was just about to say, not like Anna Sarwar, who seems to put his fingers in his ears, goes nah, 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 waves funny props around, and just doesn't listen or doesn't come with any kind of argument. Alastair Carmichael got, I'm trying to phrase, what did Nicola Sturgeon do to him? Took him apart, I think, in one way.
I was going to say savaged, but...
Yeah, that's maybe a fair comment. And Carmichael maybe doesn't have quite the... He, I think, is more a unionist, shall we say. Michael Moore, to me, always gave sort of the slight impression that if Scotland voted yes, he wouldn't be that fussed, if that makes any sense. And one of his last ever interviews before he got the chop was on Channel 4 News, and he was asked to say in one word what would happen if Scotland became independent, and he simply said it would be different. That was it. That doesn't to me sound like someone who was really that bothered about it.
Yeah, this is very interesting. It would be different. It wouldn't be disaster, and that's the line they've been trying to push for so long. Just to come on to yourself a bit more. So we talked earlier about the ideas of federalism and governance, but were there other reasons that convinced you that independence was the way to go, apart from the sort of on the political level of governance? Were there more personal reasons that convinced you it would be a good thing to do?
There wasn't like an epiphany. I didn't suddenly wake up one day and go, right, I think we should all vote yes for independence. It was more of a gradual awakening, shall we say. I was never, a major unionist, shall we say. But at the same point, I was never a nationalist. I mean, it'd be unfair to class me as either. I was a Lib Dem, and I sort of believed in things like free education, these kind of things, anti-nuclear. That was kind of where I was coming from. But as time moved on, I think the 2000 and I've come across a bit of a political geek here, but the 2007 Scottish election was a bit of an eye opener for me, because in that election the Lib Dem manifesto and the SNP manifesto were as close as two political manifestos have ever been. I mean, there really was a cigarette paper between them. Apart from the issue of independence, that was about it. Even replacing the council tax with the local-based income tax, the actual plans, it was the smallest of the small print that was different. And after that election, I was convinced that the two would go into coalition and things would be, nice and rosy. And it didn't happen. And it didn't happen because of certain people within the Liberal Democrats. Ian McWhirter's book is his Road to Referendum. It's got a great little chapter about sort of the aftermath of that election, and basically Gordon Brown and Ming Campbell basically saying this cannot happen, this cannot be allowed, that Lib Dems and the SNP can get together. And it seems a great shame because politically, I think the SNP and the Lib Dems were closer in tune. I mean, we've got differences, definitely. I mean, I'm not a fan of the single police force thing that's happening, or that's happened, shall we say. I'm not a fan of that. But that doesn't mean I'm anti-independence, because I don't agree with one policy of the Scottish Government. There's lots of other policy of the Scottish Government I don't agree with. It's not really about parties. It's about what is best for Scotland. And I think the Scottish electorate on a whole, me included, are more left of centre, more social democratic. And that is more like that kind of country that we want to try and build is more likely to happen within independent Scotland than within the United Kingdom.
So you think there was an appetite within the Lib Dems to go in coalition with the SNP? That's an interesting idea. Don't think I've heard that one before.
Well, I think in 2007 it could have happened. It probably should have happened. The SNP were wanting it to happen. Probably for them, politically, it was maybe a good thing it didn't happen because it proved them as a party, as it were, on its own. And for the Lib Dems, it's kind of all been downhill since, apart from a couple of weeks when everyone believed in Nick, apart from that.
Yeah, well, he's done his best to make a bollocks of that, hasn't he? So, but just to move on to another point, because throughout some of the podcasts, I've been trying very hard to get people who support particular football teams to come on, because people often talk about interested communities throughout the debate, and one of these communities is football supporters who are being politically censored at the moment, right up and down the country. And it's a very interesting moment in time as well. Obviously, I'm not a fan of the offensive behaviour bill, and I've made that quite clear on many occasions. But, so I've had a couple of Celtic fans on to explain how they felt the reaction to the debate was. There was someone from Rangers that came on as well, and I've contacted consistently the Yes for whichever football team, but they don't seem too willing to come on for whatever reason. But you've been unofficially nominated as Yes for Hearts.
Okay.
So are Hearts fans going to go yes or no? There's the first one.
I would say the Hearts fans are kind of like the country as a whole. In amongst them, there are obviously people who are going to vote no matter what. This, obviously, the Union Jack Brigade, you want to call it, for want of a better phrase. And likewise, there's Hearts fans who will vote yes no matter what. I'm pretty sure Alex Salmond claims he is a Hearts fan. I think John Swinney even claims he's a Hearts fan. There's something going on there. I think the Hearts fans on a whole, though, are probably like a lot of the nation. There's a percentage who vote yes, a percentage who vote no. If you go on the message boards, I mean, Jambo's Kickback is the sort of the main Hearts fans message board. There are people on there who are clearly very anti-independence, but also people on there who are clearly very, very pro-independence. And it's an interesting mix. I think fans from other football teams would probably think the Hearts would be quite a unionist club. I think that's probably quite fair to say. And I don't think it's nearly as clear-cut as that whatsoever. I don't think it's maybe like the clubs up here where I live at the moment in Murray. I don't think it's quite like Elgin where maybe you might get over 50% definitely voting yes, but it's not full of George Foulkeses, put it that way.
Have you got the sort of salmon section and folk section at Tynecastle?
Not as such. George Foulkes, well, he's just turned himself into a comedy character. I think he's turned himself into a comedy character in terms of anything to do with Hearts as well. There is a bit of Ian at the moment, because Hearts obviously in dire financial straits, still in administration, and Ian Murray, the Labour MP, has been doing a great lot of work to try and help Hearts, and is fronting the Hearts Foundation of Hearts, which I am a member of. So he's doing great stuff there. I like him a lot. It doesn't mean I agree with hardly anything. It means I disagree from almost everything politically, but it doesn't mean I don't think he's doing a great job at the moment in terms of Hearts. In terms of, is there a section that's pro Indy, a section that's anti Indy? Yes, but they don't. The stadium isn't divided like that. They all mingle together.
No, but I've been to Tynecastle a number of times, and I must say to you, there is a kind of neo-Nazi fascist section you've got down there near the away end in that bottom corner, and
section end. Yes, I know which bit you mean.
It tends to kind of colour what people think about Hearts supporters.
I would say, but.
Sorry, that sounded too harsh. I'll rephrase that bit.
No, I think it's fair enough. What I was going to say about that was, I assume you've mainly been at Tynecastle when it's Hearts v Celtic, I would assume.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a different atmosphere there. There's also, if you came to a Hearts Rangers game at Tynecastle, you would see Hearts fans, starting up a chorus of Flower of Scotland, I've seen before, being booed out, that kind of thing. When Rangers start singing Rule Britannia, it'd be booed out, that kind of stuff. So you get a different opinion there. One of the proudest and also saddest moments of my life was I was at Hearts Kilmarnock game, maybe about the year 2000, 2001, away to Kilmarnock. Hearts won 1-0. Gary Wales scores. I'm sure somebody can research when exactly it was. At the beginning of the second half of that game, a bunch of fans, a group of maybe 20, 30 Hearts fans who were probably in the late teens, started out singing some, sort of Rule Britannia, that kind of stuff. bunch of other Hearts fans turned around and told them to shut down, shut up, or that kind of thing, get lost, Ibrox is this way. A sort of scuffle ensued. I thought Hearts are going to be the only club in the world whose fans will be fighting with each other. But in my opinion, there was good fans fighting bad fans. There was no, there was very much clear who was in the right and who was in the wrong. So for every sort of Hearts fan that I say that you've encountered, shall we say, at Tynecastle, who jumped when that horrible incident happened when the fan came on the pitch and tried to get a Neil Lennon, that kind of thing. For every kind of damn pot there is like that, there's an equally a nice, sensible Hearts fan who's from Morningside and likes Maisie the cat. Remember, she was a Hearts fan as well. So
the reason I tried to get these communities involved in debate is because at the moment football supporters are being incredibly vilified around the country, and I don't think it's good in any way at all.
No, it's strange. I mean, away football fans are a strange breed. I mean, I've been to only a couple of Hearts away games this year. And I was at the Hearts Cali Thistle game roughly at the beginning of the season, so it's September time. And it was a great atmosphere. But I can imagine it would be the kind of atmosphere that if you had young children who'd never been to a football game before, it'd be like, oh, well, this is a bit weird. But then I was at the game at Pittodrie, Hearts Aberdeen, a few weeks ago. And it was actually a bit of a subdued atmosphere. It was because we were sort of at that time thinking, oh, the end is nigh kind of thing. But suddenly the team turned around and said, I've played brilliantly. The atmosphere was fantastic. And no one could possibly vilify the whatever 800,000 Hearts fans that were there. They were credits to the club for, sometimes they aren't. But Scottish fans, Celtic fans have won awards for their behaviour abroad and things like that. Hearts fans won an award from the city of Bordeaux when we were there in the UEFA Cup about 10 years ago. So, I mean, we have got a good reputation worldwide, and sometimes the media, I think, likes to go off the trendy story. Now, that is not excusing Celtic fans at Fir Park or things like that at all. But at the same point, we have got a good reputation worldwide, and it's founded on pretty solid stuff, our reputation. So,
wasn't that night in Bordeaux Craig Levine's famous 9-1-0 formation that you tried to paint as a 3-6-1 or something like that? I think
it worked that night.
Okay, but enough about football, because I believe you've moved out of Edinburgh. You're up north now, in Elgin, or near Elgin.
Yeah, just south. It's a place called Aberlour, so it's about 20 minutes drive south of Elgin.
Aberlour. Ooh, good whiskey.
Yes.
Okay.
I live very close to the distillery. Yeah.
Lucky you. Free samples?
Not free samples. Apparently, for one of its anniversaries, everyone who lived within Aberlour got a free bottle, but it was just before we moved in, unfortunately.
And people that mentioned them on podcasts?
Oh, we might as well try it. Uh-huh.
Okay, Aberlour whiskey's very nice.
It is. Abuna is it's definitely their best one.
Anyway, apart from that, so is there a kind of local Yes group up there, and how's the campaign going there?
There's various Murray sort of Yes groups, and they're always out and about. If you go into Elgin on a Saturday, they're there in the city centre. There is up here a Highland Games circuit, obviously in the summertime, and I was at the Dufton Highland Games, which is another big whisky place where Glenfiddich's from, just up the road from where I am, and they had a huge Yes Scotland stand. The Aberlour Highland Games had a big Yes Scotland stand. So Yes Scotland are very much around and active. I have not, and this is not me just saying this for the sake of saying this, I have not seen any Better Together campaigning up here whatsoever. The Press and Journal up here ran a poll about 6 months ago, sort of splitting the north of Scotland into regions, sort of Highland, Murray, Aberdeenshire, these kind of places, and doing yes/no votes. And Murray, male members in Murray were going to vote yes by something ridiculous. It was like 87% were going to vote yes. That obviously wasn't reflected by the rest of the polls, and obviously overall it was the poll reflecting a no vote. But this is basically independence country. You're up here. This is the heartland, shall we say? I would be very surprised if, when the analysis done after 2014, that Murray doesn't vote yes.
So how do we get those activists out around the country then? Because it doesn't sound like you need to be doing much campaigning up there.
You've got to keep it up. Obviously, most of the Scottish population lives in the central belt, sort of the area between Edinburgh and Glasgow. So the vote down there is vitally important. But if it gets close down there, if the vote's like 6% no in Glasgow and 40% yes, a big, massive turnout for yes up in the Highlands, up in Murray, up in Aberdeenshire, and could easily be enough to tip it into a yes overall. So it's vitally important, even if you're in a strong area. When I was working for the Lib Dems, the way you won sort of by-elections, the way you won elections or seats is you got your vote out. And that's what the yes vote have got to do. There's a very hardcore yes vote there. You hear people like Andrew Neil and things like that sort of constantly repeating that the yes vote is at 23%. No, for about last year now, the yes vote in all polls has been solidly within the 30s. Sometimes peaks a bit more, sometimes goes down, but solidly in the 30s. That is their